All right. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Leviathan News. We got Addison here. What's going
Hello.
on, Addison? Addison is a, how do I describe it? Savant, genius builder, soon to be MIT dropout after this next cycle. And I invited Addison on to come and talk about his story because this is honestly super cool. And we can come to learn to know more about you and what you're building with ChainFlip. But before we get there, let's hear about you, man. How you been? What's up with you? Tell us about your story.
Okay. I can just, when should I start? From like childhood or?
Well, I don't know. So Addison is now at MIT first year. And but this is not your like first cycle in crypto. You've been here for a while now.
Yeah. Since April 2021 was when I first got involved. Started in the Pocket ecosystem, helping out with OTC trades for their tokens since they weren't on an exchange.
In high school.
Yeah, I was 16 when I started that, and then after that started.
Well, that's where you and I met. I met you through Pocket, and I think you were like slinging millions of dollars of OTC trades while like in your AP classes, being 16 years old, trying to tell the teacher like, "Oh, hey, I've got to like sort this $1 million OTC trade out. Can you just like hang on with the lesson for a second?"
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
that came. I mean, but you're like 16 years old, and you set up like a Telegram bot, right?
Yeah, you can come up KYC and buy Pocket tokens.
Yeah,
it's actually funny because that, in hindsight, it would have made a lot of sense to like continue that Telegram bot, just given like how much those have exploded lately. But for some reason, we like just decided to completely stop it, even though then we discovered how powerful that UX was for people.
Yeah. I mean, Telegram's probably going to be the best way to onboard people coming into this next cycle. You know, they've got 2 billion active users and about 700 to 800 million daily active users. And so being able to like leverage Telegram in any way to get new users into whatever ecosystem that you're building it's just an easy win.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also, for me, it's just like the easiest way to interact with something. Like pressing a command to like buy and it just happens is so much easier than like going to a website, connecting your wallet, waiting for your like wallet to pop up and sending a transaction. Just one gear.
Wait, so how did that all come about? How did you decide like, oh, I'm going to start flipping like Pocket OTC?
So I was doing an internship at Decentral Park Capital, which is a crypto fund, and that's like they're a big investor in Pocket, so that's how I found out about it. And so joined the like all the chats and stuff. And my dad and I were just trying to buy some tokens because we were going to run Pocket nodes, and the existing guy had like a huge minimum requirement for OTC, and so just from there I realized that there's a big opportunity to start a better one that had no minimum, that was more inclusive for people.
Yeah. Wait, so Pocket wasn't your first like go around then with the whole like crypto thing then?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did like a little bit of research like for the 3 months or so prior to that, but yeah, it was pretty much like the first time I actually did something.
Wait, so how did you get a gig with the fund? Wait, were you like 15 or 16 then?
Yeah, I was 15.
How did you get a gig with a fund? Did you just like roll up and be like, hey?
No, we've known the GP for a long time. Family friends.
So, yeah. But still, I mean, like getting that type of analyst gig at such a like young age is really serendipitous.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, very lucky I had that opportunity.
Yeah, and you know, it was like you and your brother were just the two people running it. Your brother was like 13 or something.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he might have been 12. No, actually, 12 or 13. I don't remember.
That's so crazy. I mean, that's the cool thing about crypto is that like anybody that can like spin up an account on Telegram or really anywhere has full access to the system that everybody else does. And so it becomes a matter of just like what you build and the product that you're putting out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy too, because like Thunderhead as a whole like started from like literally $0. like it just started from me creating a wallet and doing the first trade, and that was a profit, and then that's kind of like kicked off all of it.
Yeah. And like, is your brother staying on with ChainFlip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Got a nice little family run business now.
Yeah, my dad's involved too.
That's awesome. Did they are they're not out with you in MIT, are they? Or are you guys working
No,
distributed?
no, they're back home in Texas.
So like that process of like spinning up Thunderhead, getting it to be successful, and then getting to ChainFlip now. I mean, like what were some of the like challenges and things that you learned during that time period?
Yeah, so there's like a lot that transpired since the OTC and ChainFlip or StakeFlip um, started like a normal staking infrastructure solution for institutions in the Pocket network, and that was like a bit of a whirlwind as well because I had never gone from like having an actual job to now all of a sudden with 70 million TVL on our infrastructure and like managing 3 DevOps people to do it all. And I basically had to go 0 to 1 on a management level very quickly, which was very challenging. Went through several dud employees, and we had like tons of technical debt issues that were very problematic, which is just kind of, I think, the nature of something that grows very quickly. Um, and then, as you probably know, or as you definitely know, Pocket started to take a tumble like mid 2022.
Yeah.
So that was pretty challenging just for the whole team because that whole ecosystem is just kind of very difficult to work in. It's very demotivating because everybody is kind of out for just for themselves. Um, and also, no one's very positive about things, and they kind of succumb to a tragedy of the commons quite easily. So,
I think it's probably a byproduct of the token price. Like
yeah, for sure. It's
the
like
token.
both. I think it's like it's like kind of why the token price started to decline, and then that further influences the negative behavior, and then it's like turns into a spiral from there. But yeah, definitely a fun. It's definitely because definitely all of a sudden now that it's up to 12 cents, everyone's excited again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it went from $3. I mean, I think the thing is that like expectations caught up with reality, and
Yeah,
I'm just taking a look at the market cap of Pocket. It peaked at like $1.5 billion back in, or at least here on CoinGecko.
yeah.
Peaked at $3, which would have been a market cap of $1.7
I
billion
think
dollars.
it was 2.4 billion market
Oh
cap.
wow,
Yeah. I
wow,
mean, at the peak, the if inflation was like $7 million of tokens per day.
yeah.
So,
And so the price collapsed from $3 all the way down to 2 cents, and now it's been having a little bit of a run up again. But I guess it's just one of those things where like it was running hot in the middle of the bull cycle of 2021, and people's expectations about how much people needed this decentralized RPC system was probably just a little bit overvalued at the time.
yeah, agree. I think even if like if properly executed and everybody in crypto is using it, or like 30% of people are using it, then I think that valuation is justified. Just a matter of actually getting there.
Yeah. Well, the RPC space became like very competitive during that time period,
Yeah,
with the addition of like all the different like MEV tools. MEV became very hot during that time period. People were choosing their RPCs, at least from like a retail or user facing perspective, which I know that Pocket's not really uh, like built. It's not like the focus of what they're building, but they have this. I mean, the thing that people see is like when you log in and choose whatever RPC you're using for MetaMask, right? Like the analytics for Pocket still are great. Like they're still turning good revenues, and it looks like they'll be able to grow over the future. It's just that rundown, decreasing price makes everybody unhappy, and then that leads to toxicity in the community.
yeah, yeah. And then just like for us too, there's so many like problems at a technical level when running infrastructure on the network. So, anyways, we kind of went through that struggle for several months, and then in June decided to shut down the whole Pocket operation, which like everyone on the team was like thrilled when we did that, just because it had been so much of a it's just so much of a kind of distraction,
Mm-hmm.
because like it didn't require a huge amount of effort, but just like the constant like having it nag in the back of the mind was problematic. And so we met the ChainFlip team in ETHCC in 2022, and so started working on StakeFlip then. And so as soon as we shut down Pocket, that just became the primary focus, and built out a lot of cool LSD features for that, which I can get into later. And then that
Well,
launched.
just to preface, like you had built out an LSD for Pocket, is
Yeah,
essentially what you had done, which nobody else had done. Pocket had kind of like gone this route of saying, "Oh, hey, we're going to have Wrap Pocket deployed on Ethereum." They said years ago, like back when price was peaking, they were going to release Wrap Pocket. It never happened, and you guys
yeah,
became really the only provider of a EVM based staking solution for
yeah,
Pocket at the time. Yeah,
yeah, which was huge.
yeah,
We actually, for a period of time where it was the deepest liquidity in all of Pocket. Like you could do
that's
like a
pretty cool.
50K swap for 3% slippage. And there's like no other OTC market or exchange that could do that, which was
That's
pretty
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. And so the essentially building out one LSD, and now you guys have switched over to building out another LSD for ChainFlip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that aren't familiar with ChainFlip is a cross-chain DEX. So ChainFlip allows you to deposit, or for example, like deposit Ethereum to their network. And the address you deposit to is basically on 150 validator multi-sig. So each validator has one key shard of this address. And so you deposit your Ethereum onto it, and then likewise, on the Bitcoin chain, there's another address that holds all the money on the ChainFlip network, which is also custodied by the 150 validator network. And then you receive your Bitcoin out from that address. So
Wait.
it allows you
What does ChainFlip do?
to swap natively between different cross-chain assets. So like right now, swaps probably go live in a week or two, but once swaps go live, you'll be able to exchange between Polkadot, Bitcoin, and Ethereum in USDC.
Doesn't it come from Rune? Isn't that the?
Yeah, they're the first person to do it. ChainFlip's different from Rune. I mean, it's a similar idea, but they have their differences.
Yeah. So the idea here is that they're building this like cross network, cross chain swap ecosystem that you can come in and provide liquidity for. So like when you're coming and getting the ChainFlip LSD, like what does it actually do? Is it supporting the validator network, or
Yeah,
are you providing liquidity? What's happening here?
yeah. So when you get when you get Flip, which is the ChainFlip native token, you can stake it via the StakeFlip smart contracts, and then in return you get STFlip, and then the native flip that's in the contract goes onto validators, and then as the validators earn rewards, the STFlip token rebases in accordance with that. So it's just like STE.
It's pretty cool. Wait, so why did you go with the Steth model?
Rather than yield bearing.
Well, rather than like say the Frax model with a two token system, or some of the other, like I guess those are the two, right? Just choosing like a rebasing model versus like a two token where you have like a fixed price that allows to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Frax, I didn't go with the Frax model because there wasn't really a need to have like a Frax ETH analog. Like wrapping Flip didn't really have like a purpose, um, because it's just like there's no, like ETH has a very robust DeFi ecosystem around it, which kind of like other tokens don't have, or it takes like a while for them to develop.
Well, I
Um,
think the reason that you choose the Frax method for the LSD setup is that by having the one to one, right? So when you essentially have like the wrapped asset that's always
mhm.
gaining value in price versus having like a fixed one to one asset with a staking facility on the side, is that when you're deploying the liquidity pools for like Curve or wherever else you guys are deploying to, it's you're able to set up the parameters for the as a stable swap rather than like a token, like a volatile token, which is essentially gaining in price over time.
Oh yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, so I guess aside from like the Frax thing with like the wrapped intermediary, it's like yield bearing versus rebasing. I actually had this conversation with Sam as well from Frax about it, because he has a very strong opinion against rebasing tokens. And so ultimately, like, the way I evaluated it was like you have like two negatives from going either way. So like if you pick the rebasing, now you have like a significantly greater difficulty integrating with like a bunch of other DeFi protocols. Um, and then if you pick, as well as like kind of the rounding issues, so you'll have like some users with like one way balance left, or sometimes they'll have to burn one less than they actually have. And then if you pick yield bearing, now you have to explain to all of these users like how that works, as well as you lose the benefit of like everybody being able to refresh their balance every single block and see like their rewards that are increasing. And so for StakeFlip, which I don't expect the DeFi ecosystem to be like gigantic in the same way that ETH is, where there's like hundreds of different DeFi protocols that use it. I see there's like maybe a few lending markets possibly, as well as a DEX. And so I just think that the benefit of the ease of use for general users like significantly outweighed the as well as the familiarity of it with STETH outweighed the benefits of yield bearing. And so for power users, I definitely agree that yield bearing is way better. But even with T Pocket, we introduced a wrapped variant so that we could use Uniswap. And explaining, like, I probably had to explain to like 300 people this difference. And I like show them the info. I have like an infographic that we made that like very clearly outlines like how the difference works, and people just still didn't get it. So just went with rebasing. Obviously, some people aren't going to be happy about it, but given the product, I think we made the right choice.
No, I mean, it makes sense. Like if you're just looking to use it as a collateral asset to borrow against and to use in money markets or in other parts of DeFi where it serves as collateral, then yeah, it makes sense. Like I think you're right there in that if it's not going to be like the base swap currency that you're using to pair against other assets and a variety of different DEXs, then just being collateral is probably the way to go. Or like having the number go up system is probably the way to go.
Yeah. And everyone like it's funny. There's like people in our chats that are like, my new favorite hobby is refreshing my balance and looking at it every block. So yeah.
So like what do you expect from ChainFlip over like the next, like why did you pick them versus like all the other projects that are out there?
Yeah. Oh shoot. I think my headphone just unplugged. Yeah. So I like ChainFlip a lot for many reasons. First, I think they take a kind of renewed approach to Thorchain. Their cryptography mechanism is significantly more efficient, and also they don't have all of the kind of baggage that's associated with Thorchain. All the exploits that have happened, as well as kind of the centralization Thor chain took on initially, which I think they've mitigated most of, but it's kind of like an ethos thing. Also, just the product itself of ChainFlip, like their entire branding and UX for people, I think is super appealing. And also, I think the community is, although significantly smaller because it just got started, will end up being stronger. But we got introduced them to as well from Decentral Park Capital, so we've known them for quite a while. But as far as like why them instead of other projects, I mean we don't just work with them. We have a bunch of other projects as well in the pipeline that we're planning to do similar things for.
Oh, like other LSDs?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wait, so how do you? I guess that's the way to go, right? Because when you're talking about like economics of scale for these LSDs, they do have to get quite large for it to make sense to deploy the asset. I mean, it's kind of what you ran into with Pocket. It was profitable for a while, and then the market cap of Pocket went to what, like $30 million.
Yeah.
And so, even if you capture, say, 30% of the staking market, right, and they're yielding what, like 7%, you still only have $10 million, and that's yielding 7%, and then you're taking a fee from that of maybe like 10%. So, the amount of fees that you would earn just from that would be like $70,000 a year. So,
yeah,
there has to be an economic reason to deploy these assets and spend all the man hours and time to maintain it to justify the amount of revenue that you're taking in.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and we expect ChainFlip to do very well in terms of market cap. So
Yeah.
even if we don't get a large majority of the share, we expect it to be profitable for us.
Yeah. So this is your first year at MIT.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's the community there? Are you meeting other builders? Like, are there a lot of crypto people there?
It's actually really interesting. So there's like one other dude I've met that did crypto, but he kind of left. He worked on it. He did some things like 2-3 years ago. Actually had um, actually started something that had like several $100 million of TVL in it. Um, but it's other than him, there's like pretty much nobody here that's interested in crypto. Everyone has a pretty negative association and sentiment towards it, which is interesting. And so it's like they always talk about how crypto is like creates no. It's like the same people that will criticize crypto for like not creating any real world value will also are like the same people that go and want to be quants. Which is like you're arguably, actually not arguably, in my opinion, you just are creating significantly less value for the world by going and being a quant rather than like building something new in crypto. And so I think that's maybe just a function of um, like cultural values that maybe are like in their families. MIT, I think, is definitely much more traditional, I feel, amongst the student population. And also, I think a lot of people are so caught up and like are busy in like what their specific interest is that they don't have whatever they see like the mainstream media sharing about crypto is like what they kind of prescribe to rather than investigating it themselves. So there's been a bunch of people I've tried to teach to. It's actually funny. I was teaching my roommate like how blockchains work, and so I gave him like a 3 hour like lecture about like all the intricacies of everything. And then I open up Etherscan to like show him a transaction, and it's just like I click on one and it's like some guy buying Sigma coin. And then I click on another one and just some other shit coin. And I go through like 10 of them and it's just all like people buying shit coins, which was not a great look for the industry as a whole and explaining it to him. But anyways, yeah, I've tried. I'm trying to recruit someone actually. So I will maintain my persistence, except it's not looking great in terms of interest.
Wait, isn't there a club? I know that like the Bitcoin MIT club was quite active in the lead up for the past few years. I know back in like 2011 or 2012, they were like giving out 100 Bitcoin to all the different students there.
No. I think the Bitcoin Club is pretty dead. Just like the website hasn't been updated in a while. There's like Sloan Blockchain Club. Sloan's like the business school.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think I joined. I haven't received anything from them. It seems a little kind of. I guess it's business. It's a business club, so it's not very buildery.
Yeah. Do you think this is just like cycle based? Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because when I talked to some like juniors and seniors here, and they told me that there was some dude who 2 years ago he was like he said like it was basically kind of some no one could really explain it to me properly, but and there's no information about it anymore on the internet because I don't think it went very well. But it's basically some sort of staking operation where in addition to staking, they're like trading the native assets or like lending it out or something. But whatever, he raised like $20 million for it, and then the whole thing just like went kaboom, I guess.
When SBF.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They said it was too much. He said like they had a great product and it was going well, except that the organization was being run by a bunch of frat bros.
Yeah.
So just shut down.
Yeah, when I came in 2017 to work full time, there was actually a bunch of projects that came out of MIT at the time. I believe the Secret Network was all MIT people. There was a few other projects as well during that time that had come out of that Boston area, and it looked like there was a lot of promising builders coming out of MIT, especially in the 2020 cycle as well too. And I guess it's kind of unfortunate to see the shift in sentiment towards like no longer interesting.
Yeah, I agree, and it's funny too because it's like even just like when I tell people like what I do, they just like immediately like lose interest or have like negative association. So it's unfortunate, but
Is that because like most of the people are like you said going to become quants?
Yeah, there's that. I think that's probably 30%. Or I mean, actually, I don't know. Of the people doing like math of the people doing math, it's probably like 30%. Um, and I find myself predominantly around people that do math and CS, shockingly. So yeah, that's the demographic I'm around.
Yeah. Well, I maybe with the you know the cure for bad sentiment is always higher prices. So
Yeah, pretty much.
So like what when it comes to like institutional support or access to like funds or other means of capital or legal services or anything, like does that still exist there?
In what sense?
I mean, like if for other people that are planning on building in the crypto ecosystem might want to come to MIT as well too. Like, does it have the support, or are you just kind of like lone mavericking?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think so. Like, if you start a startup at MIT, there's lots of different resources available. Um, I always wonder too of all the successful startups that are created, like how many of them are using their resources at their university. But anyways, there's like some organizations that can help you out. But yeah, in terms of like legal support and stuff like that, you pretty much just have to figure it out on your own.
Yeah,
I haven't spoken to anybody here about Thunderhead, just because there's nobody that understands crypto, so like there wouldn't be any point to it. So
yeah. Wait, so how do you balance everything then? I mean, that your like course load must be pretty high at the moment.
yeah, so it's interesting because first semester they call it PNR, which is pass no record. So it's basically like pass fail. So um, that just like I don't have to do that much schoolwork just because it's pass fail. I have an A in everything, but everything I'm taking now is kind of like a gen ed or something I already did a lot of in high school. So it's actually the least amount of schoolwork I've ever done in my life. I spend like 20 to 25 hours a week on school, including class. So I've actually been working more than I ever have in my life, which is nice. So I think that's going to change next semester. Next semester, that will probably invert. I will probably be doing schoolwork for probably 50, 60 hours a week and then working for like 15. Um, so I'm working very hard to make the company as autonomous as possible, looking to hire, uh, as I said before, one more person who's very capable of like taking projects from an idea to fully delivering them, and as well as managing people along the way. Um, so that's what I'm trying to do over the next 2 months before I start up again for the spring semester. Because there's so much I want to learn here that I need to focus on that as well. So
Is there anything like do you see a lot of like adjacent study? I know like the like ZK is quite math heavy. Like when it comes to general encryption or
mhm.
like things that are adjacent, maybe not like building specifically for like EVM smart contract deployment, but like infrastructure and like network security, encryption. Do you see some other avenues to explore there?
Yeah, I mean, the problem in crypto is all of those things I think have very little moat. Um, so you see like all these roll ups, all the ZK roll ups. There's already like seven of them, and so like realistically, if you create a new one, what's like the probability that you're going to be able to differentiate? And everything's open source, so someone's just going to like take your ideas and use them for themselves. So um, there's, I think, lots of things in crypto that are just like not worth touching, especially L2s and things of that nature. So not really. Um, I'm not that interested in the underlying technical details of like protocols themselves. I think like it's interesting to learn, but as far as where I'm able to contribute, I don't think that's the place I have the highest impact. More interested in like product focused things that are user facing.
Yeah. I mean, so you're like splitting, you're like running the middle path, right? Where you've already run a business already, you've already set it up, it's been successful, you know how to drive revenues, and so it's like you said. There's also Sloan as well too at MIT, so you're kind of like right in the middle on the product side, like both business and then additionally, like the math side as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's like one that's, I'm trying to learn as much as possible here, just because even random stuff, like I want to double major in physics. And so like, I'm never unlikely I do ever do anything in my life that's like direct application of physics, but doing that kind of stuff just like makes you better at everything else. So
Yeah. I think maybe we'll end up building an L1, right?
yeah,
But it's good to
unlikely.
know. I think it's it's always better to know more, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't say that it's not going to help.
Yeah.
Like it's like a modern day. What's the word? It's like a modern day polymath, right?
Yeah.
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 Because the business side is like hard to get. It takes just actual real world operating experience, and for the people that just build trading models and want to go be a quant somewhere, they probably won't get that experience for another like decade or so.
Hmm.
And you've already got like 4 or 5 years now, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's actually really nice being here because there's like in terms of like raw intellectual capacity, like like if I like in the physics program, like once I get into that more, I'll probably be like average just compared to like how many kids there that are like just brilliant at physics and it's like all they think about. But in terms of um, creativity and like actually like making something that people use, that's like something that's not super prevalent here. And so I'm looking forward to like meeting people that we complement each other.
Yeah. So how's Thunderhead been coming? Like, are you guys still growing and bringing in new community and getting
Yeah.
it to explore with this new ChainFlip deployment?
Yeah. So it's been slow ever since like October of last year because that's like when Pocket really started to take a hit. And then we shut that down in June. And so we're just building up ChainFlip since then. Now that that's gone live, it's gone very well. We have about $35 million staked. And so the plan now is to, we have like 5 to 7 more ecosystems that we're working with. And so the plan is to build a bunch more things for them over the next like 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go. Like, especially with these LSDs, right? Like, you kind of have to have a system that you can aggregate across a bunch of different protocols, so you can get your like total aggregate TVL
Hmm.
in the next cycle up to like $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes then you have like a fully functioning business that's going to last a long time.
Yeah. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
And they also kind of all complement each other because like when we build a liquid staking token, it's not just that. Like we like to get really involved in the ecosystem and community as a whole. And so anytime there's something we learn from another ecosystem that's like a direct, like we're sharing like that kind of learning lesson with all the other people that we participate with. And so like actually Pocket was like a great example of how to not do tokenomics for an infrastructure network. And so like I've had calls with like 2 teams so far, like explaining to them like the entire story. Um, and so that was like very helpful for them because they obviously didn't live through that experience. And so they aren't able to get the perspective of it. And we also like to build various pieces of open source tooling and community tooling, build dashboards or whatever, because every ecosystem that we partake in, like all of us have like significant amounts of tokens in that ecosystem personally. So it's all things that we have like long-term belief in. And so we like to serve as advisors in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, so maybe you can talk about some of those lessons. Like the thing that Pocket had, which people may not have been aware of, is that they had this like really high inflation rate for
Yeah.
a long time, and it drove a lot of interest to get people into the system, but it also led to that massive spike in asset price or in the price of Pocket all the way up to $2.4 billion in fully diluted market cap, and then the continuous inflation after that led to its decline as well too, because like you said, they were printing like $7 million worth of tokens into the system every single day that people were just consistently dumping. And
Yeah. And so it's interesting too. One thing I learned from Pocket as well is that inflation itself is not really the bad thing. It's like the symptoms that come from inflation.
Hmm.
And so when you have inflation, that's really significant. Like, Pocket, some of the node runners are taking like 50, 60% of the rewards, which is just insane
Yeah.
for that level of inflation and price. And so, like, that's the problem because then that's the inflation that's being taken out of the system. Whereas if it's just inflation that's going back to the staker, that's like less likely to like leave the system. So it's kind of inflation makes people for some reason more likely to sell the rewards, even though in some sense it's like their original principle because everyone else is being inflated as well. Um, yeah, I think like the really interesting lesson from Pocket was like the full cycle of like human behavior, like seeing a bunch of people who kind of are pretty scrappy, like from the Dominican Republic, and now all of a sudden are like on a rocket ship to financial success, and then kind of seeing like how that changed all of their mentalities about everything, and then seeing that decline was interesting and like a very good learning lesson, not only from like a tokenomics perspective of the network, but also like how to structure token incentives for employees better. I think another very good learning lesson is making like so tokenomics is very like hand wavy and abstract. Like there's really no like quantitative reason like say why you would pick like 7% inflation or 8% inflation. It's all just like hand wavy. And so I think the thing network should strive for is like just picking something and going with it. That's you have like some good chance of being sustainable and then like releasing it because when you have hundreds of people discussing this in like an open forum DAO, it just gets completely horrendous because everyone thinks they're like an armchair economist and they know what's up when in reality no one knows. And so you might as well just pick something and let everyone focus on something more useful.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. I think that there is no way like there is no right tokenomics system.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's just like pick the least bad thing is like really it's like democracy. Like it's just there's nothing really there's nothing it's still bad, but there's nothing better. And so it's like how I see tokenomics. It's like inflating to like fun things is like not ideal. So it's just like pick the least bad way to do it.
So what's the like for new projects that are coming up, or in the case of yours as well too, like how do you approach a tokenomics system? Like what are you looking at in saying, okay, we're going to have 8% or 20%? Like what's the core mechanics that you're focusing on?
Yeah. So I mean it's pretty much like ultimately the way tokens should work is it's like it's basically just like a business. And so you inflate to pay for your infrastructure and services, and then you expect like some inflow to come in terms of revenue. And you obviously want that to match, like you want the revenue to over supersede the inflation. So it's really just a matter of I see it as like a pretty simple. It's just like figure out a way to get the revenue to exceed the inflation, and then figure out a way to be able to minimize the amount of inflation that happens, and then also minimize the amount of inflation that's like lost as entropy to like selling or other stuff like that, and maximize the amount that the actual like token holder is getting. Those are pretty much the high level things to focus on.
So would that be personified in like a VE system, or I mean, locking people up for multi-year time spans in order to be able to access the seigniorage or like the new minting of the tokens? Is that the right way to go?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Like I was focused more specifically like on infrastructure networks where you have to stake some tokens in order to run a validator, um, and I think that's a better model. I'm also interested in models where you have like market based inflation, market based like stake periods, because like a lot of the times you have a network will like mandate like this is how long you have to stake for, this is how long the unstaking period is for, this is how much you're going to earn for every like piece of work. I actually think like possibly exploring models where all those parameters are like market driven, so a validator is like, okay, I'm willing to stake for x period of time and receive y per piece of work, and some other validator could like outbid them. They want to stake for longer and get paid less, and I think that leads to like more efficient um, network dynamics, because you get back to the original idea of now you're spending less and you're receiving more and accruing more value to the network.
Yeah, but isn't that essentially what the VE system is like?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, you can preference based on the amount of like illiquidity you want to suffer and how long that's going to be, and in return for that you essentially are able to boost your rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minus like the infrastructure part, I think that's pretty much what most people should strive for.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing about the VE system is that it's more built for protocols to build on top of rather than like retail like stakers or institutional stakers. Like it's the VE system works really well if you have like protocols like Convex building on top that are just going to suck in all these tokens and never let them come out of being locked. Or other protocols like on top of Curve, you have maybe like Frax or StakeDAO or Prisma or anybody else who's essentially going out to acquire the core token to help finance future liquidity for the pairs. So yeah, it's got to be it has to be able to like benefit not just the people who come and are staking and potentially will dump the token, but really like drive ecosystem growth over the long term.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. So what's next? I mean, you got ChainFlip now. You're probably looking at what, like another 6 to 12 months of deployment through that growth. And
yeah, I think there's a few more things we want to wrap up, like a few more things we need to improve. And then that should take like maybe another 3 months to do. You know, we're trying to onboard a bunch of other operators. We actually have a pretty innovative governance model. We're actually the first liquid staking token to ever give their holders any form of governance rights. So, which is, I think, the ideal model as a whole for LSTs, because at the end of the day, the person holding your LST is the user. And so any decision that the protocol has should really like be approved by them.
So you're talking about like pass-through rights.
Yeah. So like basically how our system works is we have like a governance multi-sig, and then there's the token holders, and those are like the two models. And so first, the multi-sig creates a proposal. This can be like add operator, add validator, whatever. And then there's then a period of time that the token holders have to vote on it. And so they can vote to veto or vote to approve. And depending on that outcome, the proposal goes through. And so like,
is it like a binary outcome, or does it have like split voting? So say you get like a 60-40 split on the governance vote. Will that be added? Is it like a binary yes, or is it like the individual votes are then added to the overall governance of whatever ChainFlip is doing?
Oh no, it's like StakeFlip governance is completely independent from ChainFlip. It's just like Lido governance is like completely different from Ethereum governance.
Oh, okay. And is there like a minimum quorum that you guys have?
Yeah. So like right now the parameters, it's like set to 99% quorum, just because like it launched a week and a half ago, and so we haven't fully enabled it yet. So that's gonna go down to like 50 and then 20 and then 15. And so like the interesting thing too is it passes optimistically. So like we actually forked Frax Governor Omega.
Yeah.
We use their thing. It's great. And so there's some things that like changing some like reward distribution interval like doesn't need to have everyone come out of the woodworks to like spend some gas to vote. That can just pass.
Yeah.
The things that are like a contract upgrade or something like that, like maybe people want to veto or something.
Yeah, for people that don't know, the FraxGov system essentially sets like two bars. So there's like a low bar, like you said, optimistic, where if there's like daily operational transactions that need to be fired off, it sets a really low bar. But it's limited in what it can do, right? Like you said, there's like specific reward functions or other protocol functions which only need maybe like 5% of the vote to actually pass. But then if you're talking about other votes which may completely change the overall parameters of the protocol itself, that would need a like more than 50% quorum, or even higher. Like you could set it at 2/3 if you wanted to.
Yeah, yeah, and so we don't have the maybe at some point in the future we'll enable proposal creation by holders, but you introduce a problem there when someone can just stake a bunch and then now they have like governance power, which is kind of not really what we're going for. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
And also like it just leads to issues where like we saw with index finance, where if the price goes down, people forget about it for a long time. Somebody might
yeah
suck up a ton of tokens and then stake that into governance and then fire off a vote to like drain the treasury of everything.
yeah
Right?
exactly.
And there's no way to stop that type of malicious attack.
Yeah, yeah. So that's like that's like what we're worried about in making it like fully token holder owned. Um, yeah, we like this model a lot because like I always found it strange why you'd like issue a liquid like you issue a governance token. It's like to govern your holders when in reality your holders are the ones that use the thing. Like those should be the people that are voting on it. So
Yeah.
that's the system that we've found to be optimal. So yeah, continue to flesh that out. We have a bunch of more like UX things we want to do. Like we're going to work on gasless staking, some more gas optimizations we need to do, as well as operator onboarding, which I mentioned, and then start to work on DeFi integrations. Those are kind of the things on our roadmap for ChainFlip for the next 3 to 6 months or so. And then, yeah, we have a bunch of other ecosystems that we're working with, which will be announced soon.
TM.
Yeah, exactly. As always TM.
So how are you liking the Northeast?
It's nice. The fall here is very remarkable. I've never seen like a fall before with like the nice red leaves and all of that. So I enjoyed that.
You were in Texas before, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I feel it's interesting culturally. I think there's a lot more focus on status in the Northeast than there is in the South, which I feel to some extent people dress differently.
As a Texan, do you think that you're from the South?
Yeah. Kind of. Well, it's like the South. You call it the South, but it's like not really the South.
It's Southwest, yeah.
Like geographically, it's the South, but it's not the South.
It was weird for me because I grew up in Colorado, right? So we're kind of like on the same longitude in the same kind of area. And I never knew about all this like elite East Coast, like everybody goes to private school. There's a lot of like status. And it wasn't until I got to university in St. Andrews in Scotland that all the kids that were there that were American, like almost all of them came from these like Northeast private schools that I honestly I'd never heard of. Like everybody was from a private school, which was strange because growing up in Colorado, and I don't know if it was the same in Texas, but like the only people who went to private school were either like religious or kids that like couldn't cut it at regular high school and needed to go to the like never do well at school, like you have issues.
No, it's different. And Houston's definitely like there's definitely a huge academic difference between like private schools and the public schools.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely there's definitely like this elitism that that is up in the Northeast, right? But I guess it's good and bad. Like when you crowd together so many intellectuals and smart people and people with access to power in the government, and a lot of the big companies are out there as well too. Like I guess it naturally leads to that.
Yeah, it's been very motivating too. Just like being at MIT and everybody is like super motivated and ambitious makes me much more motivated and ambitious. So it's nice.
So you don't have to answer the question, but maybe you can like blink 3 times or something. Where like have you made it into like the secret societies yet?
No, that's just Harvard. Do not have those.
They don't have those at MIT?
No. What I like about MIT is everyone's too busy working on something to like have time for stuff like that, which I like.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Do you think you'll stay in the Northeast once you finish up?
I have no idea. I likely will live not in the US when I'm older, likely Europe. Just because I think it's like a much better way of living life in terms of culture, food, and societal dynamic. But as far as right after college, I do not know.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the hardest thing about coming back to the States after living in Europe for a decade has been just the it's just so many cars, you know, like it's just, I didn't have a car for 10 years and I never felt like I was really like missing out on anything.
Yeah.
And in the States, if you like, I like having a car in the States. I like being able to go wherever I want to with a car. But at the same time, when I think about my like just daily existence, like the vibes, like I hate to be all hippie about it, but like you put on like I have this app called Calm, right? And like it has all these like different environments that you can listen to, like a river or like an ocean or something. Like here, when I just walk out without headphones, you just hear like car sounds, and it's not so nice. The cool thing about Europe is you can find these like very car independent cities with this great public transportation, and the food is cheap and great, and the wine is good, and you know, life is just like easy. And, you know, it just totally different environment.
Yeah, for sure. And like, there's obviously trade-offs, like in terms of like economic realities, like the United States is a better place to be in terms of opportunity and taxes. But I agree that quality of life in itself, I think, is better.
Yeah.
In Europe.
You going to do a like a year abroad?
I don't know. So the problem with those is that I feel like they generally end up being very, like, they call them study abroad, but I really just find them to be like party abroad. I don't know like how much studying actually happens. So I might do like a semester maybe, or a month or so. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, the trick is to like find the professor that you want to work with and then go to that university for.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'll find. I'll probably do something. Seems like it's a great opportunity to have. So might as well.
Yeah. You're like that meme of that guy like standing in the corner with his cup, being like, "And I run a crypto company." Da, 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 da. And everybody at MIT is just out building their like quant strategies or God knows what else they're building.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel that way a lot. It's my Twitter banner.
Well, the good thing is that like, you know, for crypto, you don't even have to go anywhere. You got CT and then also everything on Telegram as well too. So
yeah, it's great. I can be anywhere in the world, and all I need is my laptop, and it's the same.
Are there any like good conferences that come through in Boston?
There was one. I couldn't go. I don't remember why, but there was some. I think it was actually an academic blockchain one, which was interesting, but for some reason I couldn't go.
Yeah,
but that would have been good.
Oh, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Very exciting to see what's coming with StakeFlip and ChainFlip, and also the 7 to 8 other protocol deployments that you have coming. And,
I'm excited too.
You know, it's just the beginning. So we will definitely have you back on. And when you have some more like newsworthy information, you should come on the live stream to come reply guy with us.
Sounds good. Will do. Thanks very much, Sam, for having me. Appreciate it as always. A great time.
Where can people find you?
Oh yeah, Twitter, 0xaddy, ADDI, the first 4 characters of my name. You can follow Thunderhead, which is my company, on Twitter. Thunderhead World. There's no O. It's like Juice World. So Thunderhead WRLD.
Well, that's awesome. Well, cool. We'll have all the links in the show notes below. Make sure to subscribe to Leviathan News, and we'll see you back next time.
All right. See everyone. Thank you.